The last time Guy Penrod had a health scare serious enough to pull him off the road, he told you himself. He went public immediately. He posted about it. He used his own words, in his own voice, and he made it sound like something a man of faith could walk through with a little patience. He called it being in for repairs. That was 2012. He named what had happened: a heart stent procedure, a partial arterial blockage, and the gospel community exhaled. So when the Chattooga County Agricultural Fair announced this week that Guy Penrod would not be performing on August 30th due to illness, and his family said nothing. His team said nothing. The illness carried no name. The community was simply asked to pray for Guy and for his family, and then the silence held. That contrast between a man who once told you everything and a family that is now saying nothing is the part of this story that nobody covering it has examined yet. Stay with us, because by the 10-minute mark of this video, you will understand exactly what changed between 2012 and now, and why the people closest to Guy Penrod are handling this moment the way they are. Guy Penrod joined the Gaither Vocal Band in 1994 as a 30-year-old from Abilene, Texas. He stood 6 feet 3 inches tall. He had long, dark hair that would become one of the most recognizable images in Southern gospel history. And he carried a baritone voice, full, warm, built with a depth that seemed to come from somewhere behind the notes themselves, that made him, within a few tapings, the anchor of the homecoming era. If you grew up watching those homecoming videos through the 90s and into the 2000s, you know exactly what we mean. The informal sessions filmed in Alexandria, Indiana, where Bill Gaither would sit at a piano and simply see what God brought out of the room. Vestal Goodman was there. J.D. Sumner was there. Eva Mae Lefevre. Glenn Payne. People who had spent lifetimes in gospel music and did not extend their affection toward a young singer lightly. Guy Penrod earned his place in that circle fast. His signature performances, He Is, Sinner Saved by Grace, Then Came the Morning, The Old Rugged Cross Made the Difference, are not simply fan favorites. They are the songs people played in hospital waiting rooms and at graveside services and on Saturday afternoons when faith felt thin and something needed to reach them before Sunday came. Songs that parents put on for children who grew up to put them on for their own children. That is not a fan base. That is a ministry carried through living room speakers for 30 years. Off stage, Guy built a life that matched the music. He and his wife Angie married on the day of his graduation and raised their 8 children in the country. A log house, a farm, a Ford F-350 in the driveway. He described it once the way only he could. I'm just a little hayseed from Abilene, Texas. That combination, a voice that could move a stadium and a man who drove a tractor home to his family, is exactly why the gospel community treats news about Guy Penrod differently than it treats news about any other kind of public figure. He is not a celebrity to them. He is one of their own. On August 21st of this year, AM 1180 Radio in Summerville, Georgia, published an announcement from the Chattooga County Agricultural Fair. Guy Penrod had been booked to headline the fair's Sunday night entertainment on August 30th. The announcement said he would not be there. The wording was deliberate. Guy Penrod would be unable to perform due to illness. Fair organizers said his health and well-being come first. The community was asked to keep Penrod and his family in prayer as he recovers. That was the announcement in full. If you read it carefully, the way the people who love this man have been reading it all week, there are details in those 3 sentences that carry more weight than the sentences themselves suggest. The first is the word illness, not a scheduling conflict, not personal matters, not a procedure with a defined recovery window. Illness, a word that describes something present tense, something the body is actively dealing with. The second is what came after. Nothing. No follow-up from Guy. No statement from his management. No update from the Gaither music family. No post from his official page. Just the announcement, the prayer request, and silence. The third detail, the one that has the gospel community paying the closest attention, is that the fair did not simply ask for prayer for Guy. They asked for prayer for his family. Those are 2 different requests. One is for a performer dealing with illness. The other is for a household carrying something together. The fair's organizers had direct contact with the Penrod camp before writing those words. They chose them deliberately. And the people who have prayed through hard things know exactly what it means when a prayer request extends from the individual to the people living alongside him. But here is what none of the coverage of this cancellation has addressed. Guy Penrod has been in this position before, and the last time he was here, he handled it in a completely different way. That difference is where the real story lives. And the 10-minute mark of this video is where it opens up. And this is where the story turns. In August of 2012, Guy Penrod experienced chest pain serious enough to send him to his doctors. What they found was a partial blockage in an artery. He underwent a heart stent procedure. And then, within days, he told his fans himself, in his own words. This is what he posted publicly. I wanted to let my friends know that I am currently in for repairs. After experiencing chest pain recently, my doctors discovered I had a partial blockage in an artery. This morning I underwent a procedure and had a stent put in. All went well. I just need to take it easy for a while. In for repairs. Read that again. Not alarming language, not a plea for sympathy. An honest, almost wry description of what his body had required, delivered by a man who did not appear rattled by any of it. He named the procedure. He named the cause. He told his fans all had gone well. And then Gaither Music released their own statement, describing it as a routine heart procedure, confirming the procedure went beautifully, and saying he simply needed a couple weeks off the road to fully recuperate. 4 solo concert dates, a few weeks of rest. And he was back. Now hold that picture in your mind. A man who, in 2012, went public immediately, named the procedure, named the blockage, chose language, in for repairs, that made his community feel steady rather than frightened. A man who believed his fans deserved to know and acted accordingly. That same man's family just released a 2-sentence announcement that does not name an illness, does not give a timeline, does not offer a single word about what happened or when it might resolve, and asks the community to pray not only for him, but for his entire household. The contrast is not subtle, and it is not accidental. Something is different this time, not necessarily in severity. No one outside that household knows the medical reality, but different in how it is being held, more privately, more protectively. A man who once opened the curtain is now keeping it closed, and the people who have watched this man for 30+ years understand that when Guy Penrod makes a choice like this one, it is a principled choice, not an absence of information, a decision. Why? The answer lives in what Guy Penrod has said across the years about what belongs to his family and what belongs to his audience. He said in 2020, "For the most part, it is something we should do out in front of the family, so everyone sees how the Lord works through the ups and the downs." He built his public identity on living his faith openly, but he has also maintained a clear line, consistent and firm across every chapter of his career, between what his ministry owes to the public and what his household owes to itself. His children did not choose public life. What happens inside their home is theirs first. He honored that line in 2008, when he left the Gaither Vocal Band without giving extended explanation. He honored it across every year of his solo career, and the August 2026 announcement honors it again. The fair said what the family allowed to be said. The illness has a name inside that home. The community simply is not being given it. And that, for the people who genuinely know this man, is not suspicious. It is recognizable. It is exactly who he is. In 2012, he was 49 years old. The stent went in, the procedure went beautifully, and in for repairs was the right frame for it. He was back on the road within weeks. The openness fit the moment. He is 63 now. The household has changed. 14 more years of what a performing life asks of a body. 8 children, some now with children of their own. A wife who sat in that empty nest not long ago and described the experience plainly. Some mornings over coffee, there are tears. Some mornings we're saying, "Thank the Lord they're gone." It's the gamut of emotions. A man and a woman who have walked a long road together and who, at this point in that road, appear to have decided that some things are simply worth protecting completely. The fair's closing line is the only forward-looking note in any official communication around this situation. They said they hope to welcome Guy Penrod back to the Chattooga County Agricultural Fair next year, The people with the most direct access to the Penrod camp are not framing this as a farewell. They are planning on his return. They are framing this as a pause. And that framing, from the source closest to the situation, is the closest thing to reassurance the public record currently offers. For those of us who have followed Guy's journey since those early homecoming tapings, this week carries a weight that is difficult to describe to anyone who has not been part of this community. There is a generation of believers, and many of you watching right now belong to that generation, for whom Guy Penrod is inseparable from specific memories. The particular quality of those living room sessions, the way he stood at a microphone and seemed to offer the notes rather than perform them. He spoke once about what happens in him before he takes the stage. He said he tries to empty himself, to quiet his mind. He said, "I kind of lay my thoughts or plans for the evening at his feet and say, 'Just speak through me, I pray, Holy Spirit.'" That is the man behind 30 years of performances that a generation carried into hospital rooms and funeral homes and the darkest Saturday nights of their lives. A man who, before every show, asked to get out of the way. In 2023, he sat down and talked about life after 8 children grow up and leave the house. He said, "Some mornings over coffee there are tears. Some mornings we're saying, 'Thank the Lord they're gone.' It's the gamut of emotions." That quote landed because it was so completely human. Not a ministry statement, not a platform reflection, just a man at a kitchen table, missing his kids and laughing at himself for missing them. The same honesty that made him say, "In for repairs," in 2012. The same voice, just quieter now and further down the road. The man sitting at that kitchen table, the one who asked the Holy Spirit to just speak through him, is who the gospel community is praying for right now, not the platform. The man. If you have carried his music through something hard in your own life, if there is a specific song, a specific moment when he is, or sinner saved by grace, reached something that needed reaching, put that in the comments. Those stories belong to this community. And sharing them right now, while this family carries what they are carrying, is one of the most real things this audience can do together. There is one more part of this story that most people have not connected yet. Guy Penrod is not the first man in the Gaither Fellowship to have his health become something the community prayed through, without being given the specifics. Mark Lowry, who shared the homecoming stage with Guy across all 14 of his years with the group, dealt with atrial fibrillation for years before eventually undergoing a catheter ablation procedure at Stanford University Medical Center. He wrote about the experience in detail afterward, with the directness and humor that are his signature in every area of his life. The community prayed. He recovered. Then in March of 2017, he shattered his leg in a motorcycle accident, had surgery, canceled a month of concert dates, and eventually turned the entire ordeal into one of the most celebrated bits of his comedy. That is Mark Lowry, the man who takes the hard things and hands them back to you, transformed. Michael English walked through the most publicly documented difficult season of any Gaither-connected artist. In May of 1994, days after winning 4 Dove Awards including Artist of the Year, he stood up, confessed to an affair, returned the awards, and walked away from the platform he had spent years building. What followed was a long battle with prescription painkillers that he has since spoken about plainly in multiple public settings. His autobiography carries the title, "The Prodigal Comes Home." He rejoined the Gaither Vocal Band in February of 2009. The same season Guy stepped away, and the community that received him back did so with a grace that is this fellowship's most consistent mark. These are the people in Guy Penrod's world, the men who have shared the stage and the tour bus and the prayer alongside him for 3 decades. When one of them faces something difficult, the others are not watching from a distance, and the community that formed around that fellowship is the same community holding Guy right now. 8 months before this cancellation, January of 2025, Guy Penrod stood at the Faith, Freedom, and Future inaugural ball in Washington. He said, "I am humbled to be in our nation's capital this week, and honored to share my music at the Faith, Freedom, and Future inaugural ball. As Americans, the experience will be one my wife Angie and I will not soon forget. He was performing. He was present. He was Guy Penrod on a stage in front of people, doing what he has done since he was a young man in Abilene, Texas. The distance between that night and August 30th, 2026 is not a long stretch of calendar, which is part of why the announcement landed the way it did among the people who follow him closely. What happens next for Guy and Angie and their family is something the gospel community will watch with patience and with prayer. The illness has not been named. The timeline has not been given. The fair organizers, the people with the most direct access to the situation, ended their announcement with a hope. They are planning on next year. They are planning on Guy Penrod standing on that stage again in Summerville, Georgia, doing what he has done on stages across this country for the better part of 40 years. A man who described his own 2012 heart procedure as being in for repairs, knows how to get off the road and let the body do what it needs to do. He did it at 49. He built his entire solo career around a pace that honored what 4 decades in ministry had asked of him. He walked away from the Gaither Vocal Band in 2008, not because the music was done, but because he understood, even then, that something had to give, and he made the choice before the choice was forced on him. That is the wisdom of a man paying close attention to his own limits. That same wisdom appears to be governing this moment. He is not pushing through. He is not performing when the body is saying otherwise. He is resting. And his family, in the way this family has always moved through hard things, is resting around him. His story is not finished. The gospel community knows it. The people praying for him right now know it. And whenever the next announcement comes, the one that says Guy Penrod is back, the people who have been here since those early homecoming sessions will be exactly where they have always been, watching, praying, ready to hear that voice again. Whatever comes next, this much is certain. Guy Penrod's story is not finished. And this community will be here when the next chapter begins. If this story stayed with you, stay for the next video. We have been following another situation in the Gaither family that gospel media has left almost entirely uncovered. What came out of it lands the same way this one did. That video is next.